Audible?
Yes,
Yeah, and I hope you can see my screen as well.
yes.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Good morning. I'm Venkatesh, MuleSoft mentor. I'm working as a lead consultant at Infosys. I'm having overall 11 years of experience, and from last 7 years, I'm working into MuleSoft. I have completed my architecture as well as developer certification. Apart from that, I did my hyper automation specialist as well as AI associate and specialist certification as well. I do write blogs on Medium. If you are interested, do check out this. Okay, so that's all about me. Now, let's jump on to the agenda. Okay, so in today's call, we are going to focus on the Flex Gateway and how we can develop and apply the policy on top of Flex Gateway, a custom policy on top of Flex Gateway. Okay, so as part of this session, we'll cover what is Flex Gateway and its mode. Then we'll talk about MuleSoft custom policy workflow. So this workflow will go through the MuleSoft custom policy, not the Flex Gateway, but it's a similar of what we will be having Flex Gateway. And in later point of time, I'll show you how it looks like in Flex Gateway also. There is a slight change only. So when we go to that particular slide, right, we'll show you the differences, and then we'll talk about WebAssembly and Rust. So we'll just touch base upon these two things. So this is needed when we are developing a custom policy in Flex Gateway. Then the like we have in MuleSoft different entry point level, right, in the custom policy source, next source, and all, right. Similarly, we have different lifecycle events in the Flex custom policy. We'll go through that as well, and finally, we'll see how we can compile and package the Rust policy as WebAssembly, and we'll jump onto the demo part. So now, what is the Flex Gateway? Right, as many of you already know, right? This is an NY based lightweight API gateway designed to manage and secure APIs running anywhere. Okay, if we have any non-mule application, web service developed in some other technology, that can also protected by Flex Gateway. So how it looks like, right? So we'll be having a Flex Gateway service installed on any one of the OS like Linux, Docker, Kubernetes, or OpenShift, and then uh, through this particular Flex Gateway, all our traffic will route, and this is our backend services. Okay, so there are different way how we can manage the API or secure our API for Flex Gateway. We'll see that in the subsequent slide. But on high level, right, all the traffic will go via our Flex Gateway, and then it reaches to our backend service. Now, there are two modes of the Flex Gateway: local mode and connected mode. In local mode, Flex Gateway will not connect to the API manager. All the API management activity has to be done from the local configuration file. So once we install the Flex Gateway, let's say we are installing on the Linux, right? So there we have to configure a local config.yaml file. Within that YAML file itself, we have to define what all policies has to be applied on that particular Flex Gateway. What is our backend service details. So everything will be configured in the config.yaml file. Okay, and then connected mode. So in the connected mode, all that configuration will done in the API manager. The way we do it for our embedded gateway, the application which we deploy on the MuleSoft, right, will have a API manager instance created, and top of that will apply our policies. Okay, so this is UI driven from our control plane, and this is local configuration. So this is the key difference between local mode and connected mode. Now, so just to give you a brief understanding or difference between the typical MuleSoft proxy and the Flex Gateway, right? In typical MuleSoft proxy, let's say I have eight backend services which I have to protect, right? So I end up creating zero point 0.8 vcore, because minimum 1.1 vcore is needed if we have to create a MuleSoft policies, right? So we will end up utilizing the additional vcores to protect our API. But on the other hand, When we utilize a Flex gateway, we'll install a service on the system, and within the same gateway, we could protect number of backend services. Okay, so we don't have to invest on the number of vCores here. Okay, so this is the key difference between typical proxy and Flex gateway. Any questions so far, guys? Okay. Then the MuleSoft custom policy workflow. So there are two options. So the option one, I worked somewhere around 6 years back when I was 5 or 6 years back when I developed the custom policy first time. So in this approach, we'll be having a single YAML file. Within that YAML file, we'll be defining the details about the policy, category, whether this is compliance related or security, then whether the policy scope is on the API level or resource level or both, along with the configuration needed while configuring the policy. So when we go to API manager, when we are applying the policy, if you have seen the client enforce, when we provide the expression from where to take the values, right? So that details also will be configured in the same YAML file. So we'll be configuring both policy related information as well as the input needed to configure the policy, right? And then we'll implement the policy in template.xml. Once this is done, we'll package the policy and we'll deploy that to the exchange, and then we'll attach that policy to the API. Now with the latest workflow, there is a slight change. So now it has been the configuration what we will be having in the YAML file. It has been divided into two files: JSON schema and YAML schema. Within the YAML file, we'll be configuring the information about the policy, then the compliance related thing, and sorry, the category of the policy, and whether it is on the API level or the resource level or both. Along with and JSON schema will hold the attribute level information. To make this policy in working state, what all attributes needs to be configured, that has to be mentioned in the JSON schema now. Okay, post that, we'll use the same .xml file to implement our logic, and then we define the meta file. So this new file also introduced. As part of this file, we'll be defining what type of technology we are using. Is it for Mule 4, Mule 3, or is it for Flex Gateway? Along with that, we could give the release notes also. So with this latest option, we could do a versioning on the uh, JSON on the asset level as well as on the implementation level. So when we deploy a policy on the exchange, right? I'll show you what I mean by the asset level versioning and the implementation level versioning. So once these three things are ready, we'll do the packaging and we'll deploy that to the exchange, and then we'll just attach the policy to the API. Okay. So as part of today's session, we are going to go with option two. But as we will be developing policy for Flex Gateway, there is a slight change in the implementation part. So we'll see that in subsequent slide. Now, how the workflow look like for option 2, right? So as I said, we need a definition file. So we first create a YAML as well as JSON file. We'll see in detail how the YAML and JSON file looks like in the subsequent slide. So we create a definition file. Once the definition is file is ready, we have to go to a exchange. So when we go to exchange, we have to add a asset as a custom policy, and there we'll be uploading our JSON schema and YAML schema file. And once we uploaded that, asset will be created. So consider this as a contract, right? We have just created a asset there. Now, as part of implementation, we need to provide two things: jar and meta.yaml. So within jar, we will be having template.xml, which holds our logic of the policy, then pom.xml and mule artifact.json. So once the implementation is completed, we have to build a jar, and then we need to add this jar and mule meta YAML file to the implementation. So the asset has been created. Within the asset, we'll be having option where we have to add a implementation. So as part of that implementation, I'll be adding my jar here under binary file and the meta file. So when we talked about the Flex Gateway policy, right? Flex Gateway custom policy. So instead of .jar, we'll be uploading .wasm. We'll see what that WSM is in subsequent slide. Now, once the implementation is also attached to my asset, the policy is ready to apply on our API. So we'll just go ahead and apply the policy. Any question on this workflow? Anyone? Okay. Then, as I said, right, we'll have look at this definition file. So under this JSON schema file, and YAML file will be having this information. So in the JSON schema file, we'll be defining the attribute. So like I'm expecting two attributes from the user, regular expression and exclude attribute list. So as part of this regular expression, I'm saying that the default value should be populated to this one. And I'm saying the regex expression, the attribute is required, and the exclude attribute list is the optional field. So this attribute I'll be defining here under JSON schema file. And then we have to give the context. This is a top level context. So this is a reference to the vocabulary used for this extra annotation. Okay, so we may now I have just given here simple as a string, right? But we could use this as a data view expression as well. Okay, so that will be utilized from this particular vocabulary. Now when we talked about YAML file, so as I said, right, it will hold the policy related information like the name of the policy, description of the policy, then category, then the interface scope, whether it's a API level, resource level, or encryption is supported or not. Okay. Now, after that, on the implementation side, right, as I said, we need two things: a jar, which consists of these three files, and meta YAML. So when we talked about meta YAML, right, it here we have to mention about what is the technology supported for this policy, mule 4 or flex gateway, right? And we could give release notes as well if there are any changes and we are doing a new release to our particular implementation. So that release notes we can define here. Along with, we can also define the minimum runtime version is needed and Java version supported for mule 4. Oops, sorry. So any questions so far? Yes. Okay. So now the workflow what we talked about was for the custom policy. Now, as part of today's demo, we are mostly focusing on the Flex Gateway and its custom policy, right? So before we jump on to the coding part, or before we jump on to the part where we will deploy the Flex Gateway custom policy, we first need to understand about WebAssembly and Rust. Okay, because these two things will be needed to develop the custom policy for Flex Gateway. Okay, so this WebAssembly is just an extension that runs on the envoy as a custom filter. Okay, like we have a jar, right? We This is a one type of a WebAssembly extension, and this can be implemented by a Rust SDK. So these SDKs are already available. When we share the deck with you, right, you can go through this and you will see this SDK as well. So with the help of this SDK, we can use this custom filter for WebAssembly. And then to develop this particular extension, right, WebAssembly extension, we can use multiple language, and one of the supported language is the Rust. So Rust is the programming language in which we will be developing our policy. Okay, so in short, if I have to tell, right, it's a portable binary format for executable code. So it's nothing but a binary format for executable code. It's platform independent. Okay, the WebAssembly is platform independent. And then Rust, right, it's a, again, as I said, right, it's a programming language designed for performance, cross platform, and nearly safety. Okay, if I have to show you a sample code, right, how it looks like. So this is the way we can develop a code in Rust, a hello world code. And then we just have to do a compile and run. So rust c.hello.rc will be compile and generate a binary file, and then we'll just execute that compiled file, and we can see the output. Okay, so later point of time we will talk about cargo. We will be using cargo to build and generate our WebAssembly code. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. But any questions so far on this? Anyone?
There's one question. So Venkatesh, actually, they all not have the access to speak on, but you can check in the chat box sometimes. I will let you know. So Sai has one question: in which scenario we go for local mode?
So if we have to do any kind of automation, right, we have to implement through pipeline everything. Okay, so that is the scenario where local mode will be more preferable. Say, okay, if we have to automate everything to CI/CD. I know for API manager we can use the MuleSoft the Cloud Hub API also to manage the services, but whatever I have read so far, because in real time scenario also I have not implemented, but whatever I have read so far, if we have to automate everything, then we'll go for a local mode through CI/CD. Okay, what does that answer your question? Say before I move on to other question. Okay, thank you. What is the business scenario we need to go for Flex Gateway? So as I said, right, uh, 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 Arnindam, consider a scenario. I have a backend service and I have to protect my services. I don't want any consumer directly access my service. So on top of that service, on top of my backend service, I need some kind of a proxy. Okay. Earlier in MuleSoft, so when we create a proxy, right, we could apply a policy and we can protect the uh, access to the authorized users only or authorized systems only. So earlier we used to create a proxy through MuleSoft only. So as part of that proxy, as I was talking on this slide itself, right? Where I was. So as you see here, right, in this particular scenario, when we go with the proper MuleSoft embedded proxy, we end up creating point 0.1 vCore for protecting each backend services, right? So instead of investing into point 0.1 vCore, I can just create a single Flex Gateway service or install single Flex Gateway service and protect my backend within the same Flex Gateway. So the business scenario or need would be just to govern and protect our backend services to our proxy. Okay, and the advantage and upper hand what Flex Gateway will give that we don't have to end up investing multiple vehicles within a single Flex Gateway instance we can protect our backend services. I hope that answers your question. Is that clear? I'll take that as a yes then. Please clarify. Can you artificial help us with the step of configuration? Can artificial intelligence help us with the steps of configuration process? See, frankly speaking, I never tried, but yes, why not? We can give it a try, right? We can give it a prompt and we could see that. But frankly speaking, I never tried for this particular scenario. Okay. Please clarify, do you still require proxy? What the auto discovery is in network? So when the auto discovery concept is typically specific to MuleSoft, where we are synchronizing our API manager instance with the runtime manager. Okay, but in this Flex Gateway, we are not using any runtime manager. We are not deploying any services to runtime manager. Okay, so we'll create a Flex Gateway, and on top of that we apply our or deploy our API. So we don't need any auto discovery component for this one.
Yeah,
uh,
I just have the one question. Like for one Flex gateway, that will be giving the service for all your backend, or it will be
yes.
per backend basis.
No, we can define as many as we could. So here there are some limitation of the Flex Gateway, right? So I guess based on this it's 1,000 what it says, right? So when we deploy our API, If I have when I deploy the Flex gateway, right, on top of that we can deploy as many APIs we want. I guess the limitation is this one. And when we are deploying that API, there we have an option to define our backend details. Okay, so when we jump into the demo part, right, you will see how we can configure that details. Uh, if you can wait
Okay.
till that point, right,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
can
yeah, sure.
revisit on that part.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does there exist any graphical checker for what is missing? Uh, what is missing? If the Flex gateway has not configured correctly, you won't see that instance on your runtime manager. That's first hint. What I would say. So maybe when we jump onto the demo part, right, you will see that. Shall we take other question after some point? Is that okay? We'll just continue with the
Yes, yes, yes.
presentation.
There's no problem. If you feel like there are like questions, you can just simply say that.
Yeah.
I will just cover up after.
Yeah, yeah. So we have covered till this point,
Quite a
and
question. Yeah.
Yeah, from Raj Lakshmi will cover it after demonstration.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, you can
So
just keep on posting the question in the chat box, and once Venkatesh is ready to show you something, then later that he can answer the questions.
sure. So yeah, we were on this part till now. Now Uh, when we define a custom policy in MuleSoft, right? We defined different phases when the control comes into the policy. Before it enter to application, we perform some application. Will having some HTTP source, and then next component, right? On the same line, we'll be having different life cycle events. Okay, so for this custom policy in WebAssembly, will leverage this proxy WebAssembly application binary interface. Okay, so with the help of this particular ABI, it allows this WebAssembly extension to interact with the host proxy through well-defined lifecycle event. So we have four lifecycle event for custom policy will be utilized. There are many, but for our scenario, we'll be using a four. Okay, on HTTP request header, request body, response header, and response body. So as soon as request comes to the Flex gateway to our policy, when all the request will be header, the this particular method will be triggered. So consider this as a method which we will be defining our in our code. So whenever the request comes in and all requests are received, all the requests are received, request headers are received, this particular method will be invoked. Similarly, when the first byte of the payload has been received, this method will be invoked. And at the time when we are responding back to the consumer, once we have received all the response header, this will be invoked. And once first byte of response will be received, this method will be invoked. So when we see the code, right, we'll able to relate all these four method how it will be utilized and used within our Rust code. Okay, now the Flex custom the workflow related to the Flex mules of custom policy. So the workflow is mostly same except this particular implementation part. So for MuleSoft, we were developing our code in the XML file, but here instead of XML, we'll be using a Rust. Okay, now how that implementation, what all components we need for Rust implementation. Okay, so first of all, we need the cargo.toml file. So if I have to give example of this, right, consider this as our pom.xml. So under this cargo.toml file, we'll be maintaining the information about our project along with the relevant dependencies. So all that details will be maintained here. In .rs file, will be maintaining our logic, will be having our main logic of the policy. And then this particular, when we are building this particular code, we have to add a explicitly target as a WebAssembly 32 when we are building the code. And with the help of cargo, we'll generate a binary file. So consider cargo as a maven. Okay, so this is uh, cargo will be used for the package management in the Rust. Okay, so once the .wsm file is generated, we'll utilize that and upload into exchange implementation. Now coming to today's use case. Okay, so what we will be doing first, will be first creating a flex gateway. And once flex gateway is created, we'll be creating I have already created a custom policy. So as part of that custom policy, what we will be checking, as soon as the request comes in, we'll validate the API key header coming in the request body along with the configured API key on the policy. If matches, we'll let it call the backend services. If it failed, we'll throw an error. Okay, simple use case. Now uh, on the Rust code, right? I'll just I'm no expert on the Rust, okay, but I have explored things and I tried to put some flow chart to understand this code, okay, because it's for me at least, it took some time to understand how the flow goes in and out in the Rust. Okay, so what I have done, I have created a flow chart, and on the left hand side I'll keep the code. Okay, so now what will happen, as part of this flow chart, this is the main method. This main method will get invoked where we are setting up the logger, and then we are creating a root context. Okay, so as part of this root context, this http config header root will be invoked, and within this http config header root, we will be getting the plugin configuration. Okay, we'll be getting a plugin configuration. So once we get the plugin configuration, we'll do deserialization of it, and then from there we'll get the API key value. So within my schema file, I'll show you the schema file also when we jump onto the demo part. In the schema file, I'll define the attribute as a API key that I am loading into the API key value variable, and then that assign to API key. Okay, so I'm getting that information from the plugin. If the configuration is not available, we'll just lock the API. If it's available, so as I said, right, I'll deserialize it and set the API key. Okay, so now once this is done, we'll handle the request through this lifecycle event, different lifecycle event. So if you see, right, we have four here: request header, a body, a request body, response header, and response body. Okay, so in the response body, response header and request header, we have not written anything. We just logged it and we'll say just continue. Okay, main logic we have wrote inside our on http request headers. Okay, so once the control comes here, we'll first extract the API key header, and then we'll match that API key header with the API key which we have fetched from our configuration. If it matches, we'll lock the message and continue. If it doesn't match, we'll set the HTTP status code as a 401 and we'll throw the relevant error. Okay, so if this flow doesn't execute it, it won't call our backend service. Okay, if it comes here, the flow will stop here itself. So this is on the coding side how we have implemented this one. Now onto demo, right? Onto the demo part, we'll see how we create a flex gateway in connected mode. Then I'll show you how we can create a hello world program using Cargo, a Rust program using Cargo. And we'll go through the policy definition file, template.xml, and the other YAML file. We'll do the packaging and we'll upload that to the exchange and then apply the policy. Okay, so now instance, one EC2 instance, I'll be utilizing that only for today's demo. I have created our trial account as well. Let me just refresh and see if I have to log in. Okay, I'm already in. So what we have to do, we have to go to runtime manager. And when we go to runtime manager, select the environment, and then here we see a Flex Gateway. Okay, so this is managed by MuleSoft, but we are going with the self-managed Flex Gateway. And here, just click on All self-managed Flex Gateway. I'm using Linux from Amazon Linux to 2023. Okay, and what we have to do, we just have to simply follow the steps. So as part of the steps, it will install the Flex Gateway on my EC2 instance. So I'll go here. I'll paste this command. Let me just reconnect it. Okay, let me paste it. Hit enter. So it will install the Flex Gateway service here. Now, meanwhile, it's installing, right? I'll go to the next one. From here, I need to just replace one thing. So we have to give the Flex Gateway name. Okay, Flex Gateway Fun. I'll just give, and it will have our organization details, token details, and everything. So only we have to replace with our gateway name, and we can see it has been installed successfully. Now I'll just run this command, and it will registration has been completed. Now post that, we'll just start the gateway. Okay, we have started a gateway. Now what I'll do, I'll come back to the runtime manager, and under this Flex Gateway we can see one gateway has been created. Earlier nothing was there, right? So the gateway has been created. Now this is how we have created a Flex Gateway. Now we'll see how we can deploy API through connected mode. So I'll just go to API manager. I already have one URL. I'll try to protect that URL. So this is the one I have here. So this backend services is up and running, and it will just give the joke of the day every time when we call this API. Now here I'll go and add on the new API, and from here I'll just say Flex Gateway, and from there I'll select the gateway which I have just uh, install on my EC2 instance. Then go next, create a new API. Okay, the asset type would be HTTP, and here I'll just give my Flex Gateway API v1. Okay, and let's go next. Now we will see that we have to give the downstream application details here as well. Okay, so port I'll be using 80. I have allowed the traffic on my EC2 instance on 80 as well as 443. That's why I'm going with 80. The base path, you can just give proxy API here, proxy, and then that's it. And let's go ahead. After that, here we will be giving our URL, application URL. So I guess someone has asked, right? How we can is it the same gateway can be used for multiple backend system, right? So here we can define that URL, and again we follow the same process, create a new API, and here you can give a different URL for that new API. So this is how we can use the same gateway for multiple backend system. I guess that was the question, and then I hope that answers. I forgot, sorry, who asked that question. Okay, so this is the URL I'm giving here. So as you can see, right, I'm just giving the host detail. I have not given the path. So once I have given that details, I'll go next, and I'll review everything is correct, and I say save and deploy. So let it deploy. Okay, so it has been deployed and I can see it's in the active state. So what I'll do, I'll go and grab my EC2 instance public IP, through which I'll make a call to the API. Okay, where is the postman? So give me 1 minute, I'll quickly open the postman. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'll just give a public IP, or you can use the uh, public DNS as well. I'm going with the public IP for now. And here I have passed the API key already. So what I'll do, I'll uncheck this and we'll see whether or not we are able to reach our backend service here. Okay, I'll just click on the send button. And as you can see, right, we are able to reach our service now. We are getting a response from the service. So with this, we have seen how we have created a Flex gateway, and how we have utilized a connected mode and deploy our API. Okay, now next steps, protect API with the policy. So simply we can go ahead and apply any out of the box policy. There are number of policies only supported as of now, not all policies. I'll try to find out that link. I forgot to capture that link, but I'll try to find out and let you know what all policies are supported. Maybe after this call, I'll post it to Anjali and she can share it with you guys. And let's but in our scenario, right, we have to protect API with some custom policy because of some uh, uh, business requirement which cannot be fulfilled by the out of the box policy. Now we'll go through our Rust code. So as I said earlier, I'll show you how we can create a Rust code. So I have written few articles around it. Okay, so you can always go back and refer this. I have added all this reference in the PPT, in the reference slide. So now when we have to create a new project, right, we will be using a cargo. And if you need to understand how this installation and everything will work, that link also I have given here. So in my machine, cargo and Rust both are there. So what I'll do, I'll just go and install, I'll create a new hello world project. Go to cmd and I'll say cargo new hello world. So when you created this one, so as I said earlier, right, we'll see cargo.toml and we'll see the rs file. Now what I'll do, I'll just run this project. Okay, so let me go here, and to run this project I just have to do cargo run. Okay, so the steps what we have seen in the PPT, uh, uh, not here, here, right, we first compiled the project and then we executed it, right, with the help of Rust C command. Okay, but when we use a cargo run, internally it will compile the file, generate the web extension and run the project as well. Okay, so one more thing I just wanted to highlight, when we run this particular file, we could see one new file has been generated. Okay, so the purpose of this file is to log the dependency version. So when we define the cargo.toml file, and first time when we are running this particular project, always it will try to download the latest dependency of that latest version of that particular dependency. Okay, but if we have any restriction where we have to use a certain dependency version only, so as part of first run completed, first build completed, it will create a log file also, and within this log file it will create all that different dependency version details. Okay, so maybe not here. When we go to log YAML, right, so you can see, right, this dependency, not this one, sorry, this dependency is locked to this particular version, And when we are committing our code, we have to ensure we are committing this code also to our repository .log file also. And in future, if you want to upgrade or downgrade or change your version, you have to do it from here. Okay, but as soon as you remove the log file, it will always try to download the latest dependency. Okay, so all the details anyways I have mentioned in the blogs also. Okay, so now we have okay, we talked through about it. Now let's quickly see the definition files. We already have seen the .rs file. I'll quickly show you the definition files first and then meta file. So in the definition YAML, sorry, first I'll go with definition schema. In definition schema file, I'm expecting one attribute, one configuration from the user who will be configuring the policy, and that value I'll be comparing with the incoming header request. And this is a sensitive, so I'm be once the value has been entered, it will be masked. And this definition is coming from my context, as I was explaining earlier in the slide. So as part of this policy, I'm just explaining expecting one input. Now when we see meta.yaml, technology I have given as a flex gateway, and then I have added a release notes here. And after that, okay, I forgot the definition YAML. So in definition YAML, I have given the description, details about my policy and the scope also. I'm adding both API as well as resource level scope. Okay. So now what we'll do, we'll try to build this. Okay, so again, I have wrote that details in a second article where you will find the information about how we can build and compile the details, right? So as I said, right, we have to add a extension, web assembly extension to our project, a target to our project. So what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll open cmd, and I'll just add target. So it was already added, that's why I'm seeing it's up to date. And post that, we just have to create a binary file. Okay, so all details have been given here. If you are interested to understand more in detail about what each and every component will do, feel free to browse through this tutorial or blog. Okay, so now I have added a target. Now I'm generating my binary file. So it will be present under WebAssembly release, and this is my WASM file. .wsm extension file. So this is how I have compiled and packaged my custom policy, Rust custom policy. Now the next steps. So we have seen the workflow, right? I'll just quickly go through that workflow. We have this detail already, definition file as well an implementation file. Now we'll go and just create the asset, and then we'll attach the implementation to that asset. Okay, so I'll go to exchange. In exchange, here the type has to be policy. Okay, and you need to ensure you are giving the uh, same name what we have here, where it is here, or else it won't compile. It won't allow us to upload that asset. Now in the JSON schema file, I will be uploading my JSON schema. Okay, and then the YAML schema, YAML definition, sorry. Okay, once it's there, so so far whatever I have observed and read through, right, stable is only option will work with this. You cannot keep this as a development version. So if you keep it development, it won't work. Okay, you have to go with stable and click on publish. If there are any issues in your JSON schema or definition YAML, it won't create an asset and it will just give a pop-up with all the errors what we have in our schema as well as YAML file. If there are no errors and our schema and YAML file are correct, it will create a asset and it will redirect us to the asset homepage. So as you can see here, the asset has been created. Okay. So now you can see there is no implementation attached to it. It says pending, right? And in one of the slide I was talking about the versioning on the asset and implementation level. So now when you have uploaded an asset, you can see a new version has been created. And when you upload a new version or new definition file, another version will get populated. So the purpose of this particular asset definition, if there are any changes in your policy metadata description, right, or if there are any changes on the attribute level, you don't have to touch on your implementation side. You can simply go ahead and update your schema part. Okay. And if there are any changes on your implementation side, you don't have to change your schema. You just change the implementation and upload that. Okay. So now our asset is ready. Let's attach our implementation to it. Oops. Okay, so I'll need to add my binary file dot wasm here. So as you can see, right, only two type of extensions are supported: jar and wasm. Okay, and then I'll be uploading my meta file. So as we saw in meta file, we have given the notes also, right? So when we upload it, we will see that notes there as well. So I'll upload the meta file, give free file, and here I'm defining the version of my implementation, and just click on add implementation. So as soon as, again, if there are any issues with any of this, it will fail here itself. Okay. And once we publish the asset, we could see under manage implementation that particular version. Okay, so as you can see, this has been created. And if we have to see the release notes, we go implementation version. Maybe we will not able to see release notes here, but when we upgrade our implementation through policy, there we can see the release notes. So I'll, at the end of the call, right, or at the end of the demonstration, I'll show you how we could upgrade the policy on implementation level as well on the asset level. Everyone knows about it, but I'll show both. Okay. So now we have created our custom policy, so asset as well as implementation is available. So what we'll do, we'll apply that policy to our API. So I'll go to my API manager. This is my API. I'll go to policy, uh, add inbound policy. So on top itself, you will see, right, new policy has been added, custom policy. So we have created newly, that's why on top you are seeing by default, or else we have to browse through it. Select it, go to next, and the JSON schema file what I was explaining earlier, right? So this is the display name what we'll get here, API key, and we have to enter that value. So I'll just simply add pass, okay, as a password. And in the configuration, as I said, right, we could apply to all resources or a single API resource as well. Okay. And the version what you see here, this would be the version what we have on the asset level, where we are uploading a JSON schema and definition schema and definition YAML file. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll apply the policy. It may take some time, okay, to get this applied. And if you are seeing it's not reflecting, right? Is here on the settings or somewhere. Yeah, on the settings, we'll get save and apply. You just click on this. Okay, it will take a couple of seconds to get this applied. Uh, let's give a few seconds. Meanwhile, I'll go to Postman. I'm not passing any API key header here. Okay, I'll simply go and click on send. So now you see, right, we got the error. And as I was showing earlier in the .rs file, when we are not passing a relevant API key, we'll get the status code 401 unauthorized and access denied. Okay. So to give the a custom response or header in MuleSoft policy, we need the enterprise level extension dependency. But here with the for Flex Gateway, we can do it through our code itself. Okay, so we get 401, and this is unauthorized. When we pass the API key, it will work. If I pass the wrong value, it is failing. If I don't pass the API key or pass the wrong header, it will fail. Okay, so this proves that our custom policy is working fine. Now another thing what I have said, uh, I'll show you the uh, difference between the asset version and implementation version. So what I'll do, I'll just update the release notes to v2 and I save it. Okay, I'll go quickly to the exchange and I'll go here, implementation version, add implementation. I'm not building it again. I'm just using same. I just wanted to show you how we could apply that version. I'll just give 101 and the meta file. Uh, Meta file I have added here. Okay, and I'll just add implementation. So give it a few seconds. Meanwhile, I'll go to the policy. So JSON level version, we know we have to just come here and select the latest. Whenever a new JSON, or whenever the new asset level version is available, same can be selected from here. But for implementation version, yeah, it's added now, right? So 101 has been added. To select the implementation version or to upgrade it to the latest implementation version, we will be having a option here, check for implementation update. When you click on it, you will see here initial release v2, and it will just tell that there is a new version is available, you would like to update it, and we'll just go ahead and simply say update. Okay, so with this a new implementation will be added to our policy. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Yep, so this is how with this is how we can create a Flex Gateway in connected mode and secure our APIs through custom policy for Flex Gateway using WebAssembly and Rust language. And these are the references I have gone through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess first six are written by me only, and these are the other references from MuleSoft. There was one blog also written by our one of the member from community, where he has explained in detail how this Rust policy will work. Okay, this is also a good blog. So yeah, that's all from my end. I guess we can take up the question now. uh, Flex gateway can also be used for dynamic routing, where one system API can made to connect to multiple similar backend. Yeah, so that dynamic routing we saw, right, here uh, in the API settings, right? Here we can give the routing rules, right? So this we can give here. So yeah, that's possible. One flex gateway for all backend services. So this is clear, night, right? Arindam, I have explained this. So you're clear on this, right? I'm assuming yes. Sorry, I didn't get this. Can you elaborate on this? Sorry. I have given make access. Okay, thanks. I was given to understand that you do not require proxy without a discovery. Uh, I was given to understand that you do not require proxy. Sorry, can you unmute Eduardo? Anjali, I didn't understand this question. You can hear me, right, Anjali?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Can you unmute everyone if that's okay? Can we apply Flex Gateway with Cloud Up 2.0? So
Audible?
I don't think so for this is anything related to Cloud Up 1.0 or 2.0, right? We are not relying at all on the runtime manager here, as you see in the demo, right? We just created a Flex Gateway service on the machine, on the Linux machine, and then created API on the API manager. So nowhere we are using Cloud Up. So I hope that answers your question.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, very good. Just a question, the previous question regarding the proxies. Well, what I want to just underline that at the beginning, as far as I can understand, I'm not 100% sure that I understand you correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You underline that it is important to have a proxy for each API in order to manage this API for previous MuleSoft runtime gateway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I'm not 100% sure. Is it applicable only for a backend that is not deployed on the proxy or on the Mule runtime, or it is applicable for Mule runtime backend as well?
No, no,
Because
no.
I was given to understand that
Mm-hmm.
you do not require any proxy if you have a backend deployed on Mule runtime. In this case, you enable the auto discovery, and in this case, the proxy is implemented inside of runtime,
Mm-hmm.
Mule runtime.
Yeah, yeah, I got your point, and I guess you're right there. So let's take this into two part. I have an application which is deployed on my runtime manager. So when I have a runtime manager already, through which I'm connecting backend services, so I'll go with my embedded gateway, right? So we have an embedded gateway, we have a proxy, typical MuleSoft proxy, and then we have a Flex gateway. So when I already have a MuleSoft deployed on the runtime manager, so I will be utilizing my embedded gateway. I don't have to create any proxy on top of that. Okay. Now, if there is a non-MuleSoft application, non-Mule application, let's say some microservices, okay, if I have to protect that and I don't want to do any implementation in MuleSoft and I just want that to be act as a typical proxy, then we will use a MuleSoft proxy. So what we will do, we'll follow kindly the same steps what we have followed for Flex Gateway API creation. We'll create a API, we provide the downstream, but instead of deploying on the gateway, we will deploy on the runtime manager. Okay, so that will typically act as a proxy only, and we end up utilizing point 0.1 vCore and then coming to the Flex Gateway. So this is the key difference between the embedded gateway, where we already developed the application in the runtime manager and invoking our backend services. We'll use the embedded gateway, and in the proxy, we are not developing anything in the MuleSoft, but the backend microservices are already available or backend services are already available. On top of that, we are just creating a proxy through API manager, and when we create a proxy through API manager, behind the scene it will deploy a runtime instance also with point 0.1. With a typical proxy, it will accept requests, forward it to your backend service, and protect the API, and then flex it. I hope that makes sense, right?
Yes, that's pretty clear. Well, there is another additional point that that is actually related to the setup, and I wanted to clarify: is this well? Can you admit, or can you approve that using using Flex Gateway is almost always in order to have a backend that is implemented in something else, not with the Mule. And as
Hmm.
soon as you have a Mule runtime as a backend, it is better to use the internal gateway for the
Yes,
Mule.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And
If we
another
have
point,
the runtime already, right? If we have application deployed on the runtime manager, it
yeah.
is always preferred to use the embedded gateway.
Mhm. Okay, and the last question as well related to this. When we deploy things on runtime, it is easy to implement the kind of code that will revalidate the answer in order to avoid the answer that contains some compromised information. For example, you have a payload with the known structure, and you receive the answer with the known structure. If you
Mm-hmm.
have some kind of exploit that adds to your answer some strange information that is not supposed to be in the answer by design,
Mm-hmm.
well, we are supposed to create some validation,
Mm-hmm.
so we do it directly by the code in
Mm-hmm.
the Mule runtime. But I
Mm-hmm.
wanted just to ask, is there any chance to implement this kind of validation at the level of the Flex gateway? Because as far as I can understand, again, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
the flow goes through this uh, through this
Life cycle
gateway
events. Mm-hmm.
on the up up uh, well forward and backward, if you
Mm-hmm.
want,
Yes, yes.
or I'm not 100. I wanted just to
No,
consider
your
clarify.
understanding is exactly correct. But just to add on that, what you have said, right? See, typically we will use the runtime manager where we have to do some business transformation or orchestration, so which cannot be handled via gateway. See, there are two parts to it, right? We have a gateway and then we have a integration, right? So I'll go to runtime manager when I have to integrate API with some complex transformation and bit of orchestration. So I'll always prefer to go via middleware tool or runtime manager in this case, right? But if I have a typical requirement where I just want to protect my API, I just want to protect my backend services or manage my backend services, so in this case it doesn't make any sense to utilize the runtime manager, to utilize the MuleSoft application, right? So in that particular case we could make a use of a gateway capabilities only, where we are managing our API and protecting our API. So that answers your first question. Now second, can we do a validation on the gateway level? Yes, we could do, if uh, it's not complex one. Even complex also we can do, but it's not advisable to do a complex translation or transaction or transformation on the policy level. So in this case, what you will do, right? I have written the validation on the header level here in my code, Flex Gateway, right? But as per your requirement, you have to check certain things on the request body part, right? So you can implement that in this section, right? So this is the life cycle event. When the request comes in, before calling the backend services, it will go through these two methods. So answer to your second question, we could do add validations on the policy level as well. We don't have to rely on the runtime manager. But as I said, right, there are based on scenario, we need to take a decision. Either we have to go with the MuleSoft application or a Flex Gateway. I hope it makes sense.
Okay, okay, yes, yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Sorry.
thank you very much. That's clear. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
this
you, Venkat.
flex.
Venkatesh, I have one queries. So you hosted the Flex Gateway into the EC2 instance. So
Hmm.
is there like a like how it will be like a V course? What will be the V course, minimum V course? So it will be like a point one, or it's
Haha,
there is
I've
any.
used the minimal configuration, right?
But
It's
if
up to
suppose
us.
like I have like a multiple, suppose like a 15 or 20 application, 20 backend APIs, I want to host it actually. So do I
Hmm.
need to, based on the request, do I need to increase the V course?
That totally depend on our load test, how we will get the frequency, payload structure, and all, right? That at this moment I'm not pretty much sure, but when you go through this limitation page, right, I guess you might get answer to your questions.
Okay.
Okay, but here it
One.
says, right, it can be supported thousand, even if it goes beyond this, it won't cause any error. Okay, but it won't support it, right?
Okay. Uh,
But
s-
hmm.
so what is the purpose? Why people will be using like a own managed Flex Gateway, and another one is like a any point like a MuleSoft Flex Gateway. So is there only for that security purpose? Like I want to go for the my own VPC, my own tenancy, tenants level, or it's what is the purpose actually? The when we will
See,
be
I
choosing.
could I could think of one thing is that I don't want to manage. Okay, I
Okay,
want
that is
someone
one
else
thing.
to manage that. Right, I don't have resources, and I don't want to manage. So I will go for MuleSoft for in that case. But I have a resources I could manage. I already have an infrastructure. I can go with that. Another thing on the VPC, what you are saying, right? I guess with also, or on the VPC side, self-managed, definitely we could do it, but from MuleSoft managed, right? That I'm not sure on the VPC part. I believe it should be there, right? Because if we consider the Cloud Hub 1.0, though it was managed by MuleSoft, there also we could do a VPC configuration, isn't it? So on that VPC part, I'm not pretty much clear, but from uh, the differences, what I could make out is like I have an infra already with me, and I don't want to invest again on the infra, right? I could definitely go ahead and do a self-managed thing,
Okay.
and
And
if
what
I
will be
don't
the
have resource,
licensing cost like between two that like a
I guess it's
self-managed
a consumption based, if
consumption
I'm
based, right?
not wrong. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
consumption based. But yeah, please go through the MuleSoft documentation. Okay, I have not explored much on the licensing, but whatever I have read through, it's a consumption based. I'll share this link in the chat. It has, I guess, most of the details already.
And how will be logging? So suppose like if anything comes, so previously like in proxy,
Mm-hmm.
so right now like we can go ahead into the whatever the proxy it's there into the existing proxy,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a kind of acting as a gateway. We
Mm-hmm.
can migrate those things into the Flex Gateway right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that will
Mm-hmm.
be like more advantage. But
Mm-hmm.
how previously in the proxy we can see the logs
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
anything comes and it's rejecting by through the mule, like it you can see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how you'll be have those kind of advantage, how you can see into this
So there are two way we could log. First, again, we could use the logging policy. We already have out of the box policy through which we can log the message. Another thing, wherever we are installing a Flex gateway, right? Here also one file will be generated. Not sure if I have made a note of that. Let me quickly check. So within this itself, we can see that logs. Okay. So I'm running this particular command, and here, if you see, right,
Mhm.
this is the logs from my policy. So that you can see from logging to your instance as well. So there are two way. You apply a custom policy, custom logging policy on the API manager, and second way through your Flex gateway instance, as in your EC2 instance. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. I know we have overrun. If everyone is okay, I'll just take 2 more minutes, and rest of the questions we can answer over LinkedIn or email. That's okay, guys. Can I apply custom policy? Yes. Custom policy for Mule proxy gateway. Yeah, yeah. Why not? Mule proxy gateway and embedded from EPA management perspective are kind of same only. I guess
Can,
most of the
can I
questions
receive
are covered,
this
right?
PPT? Can I get this PPT? Like
Yes.
Yeah.
We will be sharing both the recording and the PPT.
So I guess I have answered most of the question from the chat. If
Yes,
anything missing,
Venkatesh.
please
I
let
guess
me
we are
know.
good. Yeah. And we are already 48 minutes past. So yeah, guys, you if you still have questions, you can anytime reach to Venkatesh and our group as well. For the Bath group, you can check out the recording, which will be uploaded within 24 hours, and also this PPT. And Venkatesh, in that PPT, we have all the links which Venkatesh was mentioning for. He has the blogs posted, so which will be an advantage for all of you people.